Ah, the glory of the mighty Ohio River. Or should we say the muddy Ohio River? After all the rain and snow, she's looking pretty green today. But that over there, that you see over there on the other side, that is West by God, Virginia. And then up here, that's Ohio. And the funny thing is, the West Virginia line doesn't start out in the middle of the river, but it starts about 5 feet out from here. So the Ohio River is actually in West Virginia. No swimming yet. You wouldn't want to go swimming in there. Anyway, just thought I'd share this morning. Hey, what's happening, guys? I hope you have all survived your St. Paddy's Day debauchery. I spent St. Patrick's Day working with my radio club, the Steubenville Weirton Amateur Radio Club, providing communications for a 5K race that was held here in my hometown of Toronto, Ohio. So that was a lot of fun, and it actually didn't rain this year, although it did snow a little bit. It was dry snow, so it was cold, but thank heavens it wasn't wet. Anyway, this video is going to be a bunch of random things that I didn't have enough to make an entire video out of, but I wanted to get out there for you guys, so we're going to have some stuff. Starting with this, LED strip lights. I mean, you've seen them, we've all seen them. So why am I even bothering with them? Well, because these ones dance to music, and random Chinese company sent them to me and asked me to do a video on them. And frankly, I wanted these dancing LED lights for my son's room. So that's why we're doing a little bit of a video on it. It does come with a super meaty AC adapter here. 12 volt 5 amp. Let's get this out of here and we'll take a look at it. So here's a little controller for it, and it can take up to 2 spools of lights, it looks like. Input output voltage 12 volt DC, output current 3 times 2 amps, so 4 amps max. Let's see if we can't open it up here. Where's my spudger? Yes, I use the iSesamo spudger, the same spudger that Big Clive uses, because I like Big Clive. Of course, he's much better at getting stuff open than I am. Most of my openings tend to be what I would describe as one way. Holy camolians. There we go. Let's have a better look deep down in there. Okay, so here we have the insides. Now if we look here, this connector that I'm wiggling has the IR in. So that's going into there, and then we have our outs over here. There are basically only 2 ICs. This little 8-pin jobber here, which says on it ATMT-C086. I can't find anything on it whatsoever. And then we have this one, which is a 16-pin, and they have completely obliterated the markings on it. So chances are that's a microcontroller. And then we have our microphone here that picks everything up, and our DC jack. So let's put it together. Look at the tape here. These appear to be WS2182Bs, addressable LEDs. And then we have 3 resistors between each one, 150, 150, 330 ohms for each of these sections. So we can plug them in here. There is a small arrow mark here, which corresponds to an arrow there. Hopefully that will do it. Okay, the instructions say not to operate it rolled up like this, but we're only going to do it for a few seconds, so I think we should be able to feel relatively safe. Alright, I don't know how well you can see that, but I can see that all three LEDs there are lit up. And here we have our remote. So let's see, press off. It goes off, on. Dim doesn't really, okay, gotta press the buttons to make them dim. Red, green, blue, white, purple, cyan. These are very nice. Yellow, orange. Here's jump 3 pattern. Jump 7 pattern. Fade 3. Fade 7. Alright, let's just go back to white. Now I have some copyright-free YouTube music that I can add. And you can see here on the controller, we will press music button number 1 and see what we get. Let's try the next one. Number 3. And number 4. So yeah, they're pretty neat. And apparently it reacts to my voice. La 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 la. La 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 la. Okay, that'll be enough of that. Alright, very cool. Let's see where I got these from. These guys are from Litake Lighting, L-I-T-A-K-E, and it's 32.8 feet of waterproof sound activated LED strip lights, 300 LEDs RGB. They're 50/50 style LEDs. You can get them from Amazon for $25.99, and I will put a link down below where you can order them. Alright, let's take a look at some soldering jobs that I needed to get done. So I'm getting ready to put up a new antenna. This is a VHF antenna, and it is a ground plane type antenna built on a SO239 base. Now I had some 100-foot and 50-foot lengths of RG8X that I could have used, but the run from my shack out to the antenna is really only about 10 feet, and I'm going to put the antenna up about 20 feet. So, you know, let's say 35 feet tops. And one of the things I didn't want was a bunch of extra coax, because at VHF ranges, and in this case we're talking about the 2-meter ham band, so say 145 hertz, around that area, 145 megahertz, you have a considerable loss with coax. I don't want the considerable loss, so I'm making a shorter cable here. This is about 35 feet of extremely stiff RG8. It's kind of hard to work with, and I've got some of these solder on SO239 connectors, so we have to put some on here. Now I'm sure that this is not the approved way of soldering on these types of connectors, but it will work. I've done it in the past. The main thing that we have to keep in mind here is simply we need separation between the shield and the center conductor of the coax. We can't have anything shorting, and we need to have good connections. So after stripping off the insulation, the next thing that I need to do here is just simply get rid of this shield braid, which can be a bit of a pain in the butt. Now this particular coax is from Gap Antennas, and it's very good quality, multi-stranded center core with this nice copper braid, but it's kind of old, so it's a little stiff here. You got to be careful. So I've got enough braid to get into the base of the connector here, and the next thing I have to do is simply cut off the dielectric insulator in here and expose the center conductor. Generally what I do is just twist it, and that generally breaks the plastic, and pop, off it comes. And the benefit of that is that you end up with your center conductor nicely twisted and ready to roll. This just didn't want to play along here very nice. And this is my first time like doing an overdub here, so you know, I tried it. If it doesn't work out well, I probably won't do it again. Alright, so twist, 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 and off comes the dielectric insulator and also the center conductor. So we start from scratch again, but I won't make you watch that. We went all the way up through this part. So what we need to do is just shove that in there. Now, supposedly, in theory, that braid should have just threaded into the threaded part at the base of the connector, but that never, ever, ever works for me. So, in this case, I just shove it up there as best I can. Then I'm going to use that KSGER T12 soldering station, which is, you know, working out really nice. Little dab on the iron for thermal conductivity, not enough that we want it to transfer to the conductor there. And once we get that soldered in, I'm just going to solder the braid to the bottom of the coax. Like I said, I know this isn't the recommended way, but it's my way, and it works. Then all we have to do is thread that up on there, and you can see I already put some heat shrink wrap on there. And I tested this cable for continuity through both the center conductor and the shield, and it worked out great. Now the other thing is my radio club's doing an event tomorrow. There's a 5K race here in the booming metropolis of Toronto, and one of the things that we have to always look out for is guys bringing their radios, and everybody uses Anderson power pole connectors, but sometimes, you know, guys don't have enough cables or the right cables to connect to our power sources, which in most cases are either generators or deep cycle batteries. So what I'm going to do here is basically just make a parallel splitting cable. This is 18 gauge very nice soft silicone wire, which I'm soldering into the silver connectors for the Anderson power pole connectors. I cut all these pieces about 6 inches long. So nothing going on here too great. You notice there is a little bit of wire that sticks out the back end, but it's not going to be a big problem because that will be within or inside of the plastic housing for the connector, so you're not going to see it. It's not going to be exposed. Like I said, not going to be a problem. Again, when you solder these, you don't want to get any solder on the outside of the connectors because they do fit tightly within those plastic outer casings, and that's what makes these great connectors. So just the slightest dab of solder on the outside of that iron for connectivity. These silver connectors heat up really quick. Feed in some solder there, and you're good to go. See, that's one side already done in about 30 seconds. Then we'll just do another pair. Second verse, same as the first. A little bit louder, and I hope it's not worse. We just solder them up again. And with any type of soldering, you just want to make sure that you clean your iron regularly. You know, the way I was taught was you cleaned it between every joint. I don't clean it between every joint. Maybe every 2 or 3 joints, but you always want to be approaching the joint you're going to solder with a clean iron. That is quite important. So we just fill up the connector so that we get a good current carrying capability. Remember, electrons travel on the outside of the wire, so the more surface area we have, the better off we are. Again, these are going to be used for the race, so they're probably going to be 25-watt VHF portables, some 5-watt, you know, handhelds, stuff like that. We have 8 guys stationed along the race. We have a base station that is going to be at the emergency medical building, and we also have a portable repeater that will be at the other end of town. We're going to get started about 8 o'clock in the morning. The race starts at 9, and we should be done by noon. At least, you know, that's the plan anyway. Alright, so once we have our connectors in, it's a sometimes not so simple matter of clicking them into place. You want the bend on these connectors to face the bottom of the plastic housing. Then I just like to use a little screwdriver bit, which I try to get in camera here, to pop it in. You will definitely feel and hear the click when it is seated. And once it's seated, it's in there forever. I mean, you could go in there and rip them out if you really wanted to, but your best bet is to consider these one-time use one-time assembly connectors. You're not going to take them apart and use them again. If you really need to, your best bet would be to just cut the wires a couple inches away from the connector, strip them, and do a splice. Alright, so once you have all your connectors in place, well, one side of them anyway, now you want to stop and you want to think. These need to be in parallel. Like color to like color. If you wire a black and red to a black and red, things are not going to go so well for you. Who was the one of the original Mercury astronauts? Jeez, I can't think of who it was that said it. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, what he said was, if your engines are pointing towards the sky, you will not be going to space today. I think it was our first one, Shepard, Commander Alan Shepard, a Navy man. I believe that's his quote. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong here. Anyway, be careful you don't get any solder on the outside of the connectors. That's why I was wiping that off there real quick, you know. Then we'll do the other one, like color to like color. I really like working with the Anderson power poles. Back when I used to fly RC planes a lot, we had a guy in our club named Dave Walker, the Greater Pittsburgh Amateur Radio Control Society, who used Dean's connectors for everything. And I didn't like them. Back at the time, I swore, he used Anderson power poles for everything. I swore by Dean's connectors. But once I got into the amateur radio world, these are the standard connectors of use. So I do see the advantages to them. Plus, you know, you can get them rated up to what I think 60 amps. Let me see what these are. These ones are 30 amp Anderson power poles. I got these off of Amazon, and they are part number X0013 Alpha Z H Hotel Whiskey X-Ray. It's like 15 bucks for a 10-pack. Not exactly dirt cheap, and I really recommend you don't buy the cheap Chinese knockoffs on these, because sometimes they just don't fit together correctly. Stick with real Anderson power poles. Okay, all my clicking is done. This is our base end, which will plug into the power supply, and then we will mate up opposing colors for the other side. Again, the reason why I'm doing this is sometimes just guys don't have enough cables or the correct cables. And yeah, you can buy Anderson power pole distribution boards, but man, are they expensive. They start at like 45 bucks and go up well over 100. Of course, yes, they're fused and all that, but you know what? You can put a fuse in these if you want. I just didn't feel a need.